This is our season. Palm trees breezing, opposing teams bleeding.
All right, welcome back to Buc What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Buc What You Heard. And remember, you follow me, follow you back. And of course, you know, my man, KB, back in the house. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How you been, Gene? I heard there's a football possibly on tonight.
Yeah, allegedly. Can't say for sure, can't confirm or deny, but I heard football is definitely a possibility here. So, first things first, man. How have you been and how are things going for you right now?
Things are good. It's just, countdown to this time of the year. I feel like I'm more, contrary to what probably people think, being productive or not. Like, I think I'm more productive this time of year. I think I work hard, and then, Thursday, Sunday, you get to Monday, you get to enjoy yourself a little bit and have something to look forward to. So looking forward to get back in the swing and get on the routine.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. So let's talk about this season. I mean, we've gotten camp out of the way, you got preseason out of the way, and all the other crazy stuff that happens with football, and it's time to really let's see what this team can do. So, for you, what are some of your expectations going into the season?
Well, for the Bucks, I mean, everyone's talking about the Falcons, so it doesn't necessarily have to be the division. I think it's just getting in there. It's getting to the party. It's a tough schedule. Middle of the schedule is really, really difficult. Division games on the road, followed by some of the Super Bowl favorites between the Ravens, the Chiefs, the 49ers, all in a stretch before the bye week, and then take care of business after the bye. I think, going into it, Jason Light basically said it. I'm glad that the Falcons are getting all the attention right now because really we have nothing to lose. I think this is a team, if they are between 8 and 10 wins, I consider it a success. And some people would say, oh, Ken, they won 9 last year. It's a step backwards. And it's like, no, the schedule is 10 times more difficult this year than it was last year. And I think next year's the year everything's going to kind of come together where I think we can make a push. So for me, it's just like if you can get 4 to 7 seed, that would be awesome. That's kind of where I'm at.
You mentioned these games and how tough some of these games are going to be. And to me, it's a measuring stick to where are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Had a very, in my estimation, a very successful season last year. Coming in with a quarterback that was an unknown, coming in with an offensive coordinator that was an unknown, and the Bucks end up going into the playoffs. They had a rough patch, but they were able to right the ship and still make it into the playoffs, which speaks volumes about this team. I know there have been some. I was, me, I stay in the Twitter streets, so just kind of some of the things that I've seen. I heard somebody mention that Devin White is gone, Carlton Davis is gone, and
did you see what happened with White?
Yeah, I saw a little bit, but what was the other person? Oh yeah, and Shaq Barrett retired or went to another team, then retired. But he's no longer with the Bucks.
No, but did you see what happened with White the past 24 hours?
No, I have not. I haven't been paying any attention.
So Devin White was about to get traded by the Eagles. They were trying to look for trade partners, probably to swap a 6 and a 7. You know how those deals work.
Yeah.
And they benched him, and then he has a magical ankle injury right now.
Well, not our headache. Fortunately, not our headache.
So 45 will not be getting live tomorrow night, everyone.
So I guess the next question: do you know if he's unfollowed the Eagles on Twitter yet, on Instagram or wherever he unfollows?
I think the Devin White saga is basically over at this point.
Yeah. And I talked to a couple of journalists in the Philadelphia area, and they basically the consensus was he was in camp, but he didn't flash like some of the other players. He was there.
Dude, he was getting buried in preseason games against backups.
Yeah. So, again, you don't have Levante David on the other side of you anymore. I mean, your crutch is somebody kicked your crutch out from under you, and that's kind of where you are. But again, he could go somewhere and possibly reinvent himself. But as far as I'm concerned, it's not a problem the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have anymore. But kind of getting back to that, it's funny that they're right now when you look at the Bucks did what nobody expected them to do last year, going to the playoffs, well over the cap, still managed to put together a very uh a very competitive team. So it's crazy, just to think where they are, and I think they've improved a lot through the draft. Graham Barton, and they've done quite a bit, in the offseason to put themselves in a
3 starters in the draft.
yes. How often
Can't
does
ask for much better.
how often does that happen? It's not very often. So for you, just looking at the season coming up, um, what are your some of your expectations?
Beat 2 of the Eagles, the Ravens, the Chiefs, the 49ers. If they beat 2 of those 4, this team's making the playoffs and winning the division.
I 100% agree.
If they go 1-3, I think they're, at least
You
on
know,
par with what people's expectations are. You go 0 for 4, you got to win all those other games. We know, Danny Dimes could pull out a game in, Jersey, the Chargers, all it takes is Jim Harbaugh maybe controlling the clock a little bit. Like, if you beat 2 of those teams, that gives you another loss that, you didn't expect on the schedule. Like, I know we're playing Commanders week 1, but, we got you like that game. When Brady was here, we lost to the Commanders when we shouldn't have, when Taylor Heineke was a quarterback. So it's just like, those games are going to happen in the NFL season. But if you can, and also the Cowboys, so really 2 of those 5. If you beat 2 of them, I think we're on schedule to reach that 9-10 win mark that I think everyone's expectations are.
oh
For
yeah,
for the Bucks fan base, not outside
yeah,
of it.
yeah. We're strictly speaking Buccaneers here. So outside of that, I mean, we talked a little bit about going into the season. Are there any players that you have expectations for? Like me, I love Bucky Irving, Graham Barton. On the defensive side of the ball, I'm hoping that they can get home with 4. I say that every year. I think that's going to that if if the Bucks pass rush is there, then this defense will do really good.
Yeah, there's 3 guys that I'm mainly looking at to 4 guys, 2 on offense, 2 on defense. I'm expecting to take a big leap. Not necessarily in his sack numbers, but if he wants to replicate what he did last year and up his pressure rate, Yaya Diaby.
Mhm.
Kalijah Cansey had a great end of the year. Now, obviously, he's going into a season healthy. And then on offense, we got Cody Mock. I think if he takes that next step, that would be awesome for an offensive line. And Ben Bredesen seems to be fitting in there. But my 4th guy then would be Kate Otten. If he's a real threat as a
Yeah.
tight end, and you got these 3, probably 4 receivers if you include Trey Palmer. Yeah, I mean, good luck, defense. What are you going to do? Double Mike, and then Chris is in the slot wide open, and you got Chris. I almost said Brait, Otten, and McMillan in one-on-one situations. Yes, please.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, and we haven't even talked about Rashad White yet. Rashad
If
White is
Baker hits him, because that was my only criticism really of Baker last year, is I think he missed Godwin too much, and then he wouldn't check down enough to White. Because I think when he had his best games, you go watch the Jaguars game, you go watch that Packers game.
yeah,
Dump
yeah,
offs were there, and he would take them. You'd stay on schedule. You didn't have these low percent, because Baker can hit these low percentage passes, and most of them went to Mike. Like, let's just be
right.
real there. But if you hit those easy Godwin targets and you hit those easy White targets, you get those guys with men to miss. I mean, those are 2 of the best yak guys, if not necessarily NFL, but at least that the Bucks have had in a very long time.
And on top of that, you put your defense on their heels. It's kind of hard to you kind of pick your poison. I know what we have with Rashad White, but just the running back room, I'm a little bit more excited this year than I was last year, and I think part of that goes to Liam Cohen. I think Liam Cohen has a better grasp on when to run the ball, and try to not be as predictable as kind of what you saw last year.
Well, experience is awesome, and that's why, again, I mean, we know Raheem Morris, if we're talking about the Falcons real quick. Raheem at least has been a head coach at some point. I think he's learned a lot from his mistakes, which is why so many people are encouraged with that hire. But his offensive coordinators never called a game before.
Yeah.
Liam Cohen, yeah, he was under that same staff with Sean McVay and the Rams. But Liam would go back and forth between Kentucky and the Rams just because he wanted that experience, because McVay was calling that offense. So Zach Robinson doesn't have that experience that Cohen has. So again, I think there's just a lot of moving parts going on with the Falcons' new quarterback. I mean, Kyle Pitts already has a hammy. A 33-year-old edge rusher that just comes into the system, a new free safety that just comes into the system, 2 weeks before the season starts. Again, rookie coordinators, it's a lot of moving pieces there. The Bucs, what do we have? It's continuity. Everyone wrote us off last year because, the continuity was gone at quarterback, but not the rest of the roster.
Right. And for me, when I'm looking at all this, that's been the hang up for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for years. Is you get rid of a coach, you bring another coach in, he wants another system. This guy doesn't fit my system. Let's move him out and move them in. But what we've had, like you mentioned, is continuity from Bruce Arians transitioning over to Todd Bowles. And what Todd Bowles has been able to do since he's been a head coach is, it's underrated. As a Bucs fan, when I look at all the things that have happened, what you get with Jason Light, the general manager. The fact that general manager has a great relationship with the head coach and can get the pieces in that they need, that's huge. And what the Bucs have been able to do is keep their core. I mean, this offensive line, I've never been as excited about the offensive line as I am this year, just because the core of the team have played together. And now you can plug and play some of your other offensive linemen. Some of the newbies can come in, and it's not going to be a struggle getting up to speed. And you can speak more to that as a former offensive lineman. You can speak more to that than I can probably.
Well, I mean, just when it comes to the offensive line, I think what have we been missing the past 2 years? And I mean, I think Robert Hainsey's a fine lineman, but what he didn't really provide was that push, that nastiness, that Ryan Jensen did.
Yeah.
And I think that is going to be really important. I think those coaches that went off with Canales to the Panthers, our offensive line coach, our run game coordinator, Goody, and all that stuff, that went to Carolina, I think they would have loved a run duo with Graham Barton at center compared to Robert Hainsey.
Yeah.
Well, Graham Barton's been pushing people. Cody Mock's been pushing people. I mean, granted, it's the preseason. They played against a lot of backups. Don't get me wrong. Like that, Bren Bredesen did the same exact thing. Heck, Elijah Klein was moving people as a backup as well. So that gives you, some perspective there. But that type of line movement just wasn't occurring ever. I mean, we weren't really getting to the second level when it comes to those, those duo plays. Or the whole point is you double team to get up to a linebacker.
Right.
That wasn't happening. And we saw with Rashad Wright, he's one of the best running backs in the NFL making the first guy miss. Yeah. So imagine if he's getting hit, not at the line of scrimmage, but 2 yards, just say 2 yards down the field. That turns that, 2-yard gain he was making before into a 5-yard gain. And everyone, is poo-pooing him. Everyone's saying Bucky Irving, if you're in the fantasy community, is the Bucs running back you want to own. Not necessarily, because if you take Rashad White's really abysmal average from Canales' offense and Byron Leftwich, because he played a little bit in 2022 with Lenny as the main starter, but like you take his abysmal average and you give him, like you said, Liam Cohen, has more experience, isn't going to, beat the basics over the head kind of the way Canales did, which the basics work. We've seen it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't consistent.
Yeah.
And from that aspect, again, I think the defense is going to really enjoy the offense this year, not because they're going to score 35 points a game, but they might go from 20 to, 24, 25, which is great. But what's really going to happen is they're going to be moving the ball a little bit more. There's going to be more first downs. We're not going. Last year, we didn't start one game with the touchdown or with the score on our opening drives for a touchdown to open a game. We did that twice in the preseason. Granted, with backups, one of them. But the whole point of that is just again, the defense can come on the field with a little momentum and not what were we talking about in 2019? The difference between Jameis and Brady was Jameis, the 30 interceptions. The defense can come onto the field and the ball be at the 30, 40-yard line about to score versus, you'd say you get 2 first downs and you punt. The other team's starting it and maybe they're 10 to 20-yard line. You know what I mean? That's that's 50 yards of difference.
Yeah, and it's so demoralizing when you're coming out on the field and you got to defend the team and keep them from scoring, and you have a short field. That's just is demoralizing. And when you continue to have that, I couldn't even imagine playing defense back then and having to kind of deal with that. So,
well, and Gene, I'm not a meteorologist, but last time I heard it's pretty hot in Tampa. So if you're the defense and you're on the damn field the whole game, you're gonna be tired.
Exactly. So I did want to kind of switch sides here. This is the part of the team that everybody has been talking about, and I want to get your thoughts on it, is the secondary. And more specifically, the cornerback situation. There have been so many. I've heard a lot of people that have mentioned, losing Carlton Davis really put this team in a bad situation. And again, do you have the tools to really shore up this defense? I mean, if your front four are getting home and you're getting pressure on the quarterback, do we have the cornerbacks to really close the deal?
Can I say an unpopular opinion, Gene?
Yep, absolutely.
The Bucs aren't going to get home with 4, everyone. And they're also not going to play man-on-man the entire game like they did with Carlton Davis. So from that regard, you're going to be seeing a different Bucs team that you're not used to. I mean, the biggest problem that we had with the Lions was after Jamel Dean got hurt. His assignment was to play Amon-Ra St. Brown in man coverage the whole time. So when Dean gets hurt, Zion comes in, and Zion is a long, lengthy, yes, fast. But what is Amon-Ra? One of the quickest twitch guys in the NFL. It's a different game, different style, right?
Exactly.
I mean, we're going to have 2 cornerbacks that are going to be playing sides, and we're going to have big nickels. So what that means is you're going to have a safety playing the nickel spot. So that's Tyke Smith. That's what Christian Izien was doing last year. That's what Antoine Winfield does. That's what Jordan Whitehead does. So you take those 3 safeties. I mean, primarily it's going to be Tyke Smith in the slot, but those safeties are going to rotate. And what that's going to do is that's going to confuse some quarterbacks, which is great on the surface, right? But I mean, I think Bucs fans are really accustomed to really the past 4 years, playing a lot of lockdown man defense. Yeah. That's just not going to happen anymore. Dean's actually a better zone corner than he is a man corner. I think he's a pretty decent man corner. Zion is not a great man corner. You can go watch the Carolina game that I went to in 2021 or 2022 if you really want to see him, not play well against a really bad Panthers team. Granted, he's gotten better from the past year and a half, but from what you're going to see though is you have 2 primarily zone corners. What does that typically mean, Gene? They're probably going to be a little bit more healthy because they're not playing man, they're not getting tired all the time. But what that's also going to mean is Todd Bowles might give up more yardage than I think what people are used to. But what we've seen from Todd Bowles is he's really good at stopping teams from scoring 7 and scoring 3.
Yep.
So from that regard, they're going to give up yards. They're probably going to give up a lot of field goals this year. But the biggest difference between what's going to make this defense, closer to top 10 or, below 20 is how many touchdowns they allow. So that's what I'm looking for this year is don't pay attention to really the yards that they give up because all of the great offenses in this league are going to get yards. That's what the NFL is built on now. It's what do you do inside of the 20? And Todd Bowles has really taken that style to heart. And that's where guys like Hansey are going to come in handy, is to get that. What we see it with the Chiefs. The Chiefs don't have the most talented defense in the NFL, but what do they have? Some really good man-to-man corners that are going to stop teams and maybe knock a ball away, or Chris Jones is going to force a bad throw, a sack, on a 3rd down. That's what this defense is going to be. So for the defense, I'd say the goal is to be opportunistic, tip some balls at the line of scrimmage, have a bunch of DBUs. Heaven forbid anyone under the Antoine Winfield can catch a ball and maybe get some interceptions. Like that would be cool. Because I can tell you right now, Zion can catch a ball better than Carlton Davis can.
Yeah.
If Jordan Whitehead can catch a ball better than any of the strong safeties that have been here the past 3 years. I mean, hell, he got 3 interceptions against oh my God, who were the Jets playing last year? Oh my goodness. He had 3 interceptions in the first game of the year last year. So Jordan Whitehead can catch. And he's learned a lot since he's been away from the Bucs, because I think that's one of the main reasons why he left is I think the Bucs thought he was just this in the box strong safety when really he's got the range.
Yeah.
And I think that allows you to do more with Antoine without necessarily having to have him at the line of scrimmage and be a slot corner like he was 2 years ago.
Right.
So again, I think the as long as they stay healthy, the back end of the defense, I'm not necessarily worried about. If anything, I hope KJ Britt has taken a step, because if we're playing against the Travis Kelce's, the Mark Andrews, the Kyle Pittses, they're going to be running their tight ends into his areas.
Right.
Because he's the weakest guy on the field, and it sounds like he's going to be wearing the green dot. So that means he's not coming off the field.
Yeah. I guess personally, I felt like he did a good job. I think he has a pretty high football IQ as far as he's not as athletic as like a Devin White was, at times, but he's a different type of player where he's, he comes in and does his job. He's not going rogue and trying to make plays when he, should just be focused on what he's doing. I'm comfortable with KJ Britt. I'm curious to see what he does this year, but just as a whole, when I look at the team top to bottom, that's secondary, but you make some very valid points to, how this defense is going to look different this year compared to last year. Any other positions out there that you've seen that could potentially be different?
I hope Logan Hall, granted he probably won't play on Sunday, I hope he can hold up.
Is he a key piece to this defense?
Don't ask Michael Plus. The answer is going to be, he's not a key piece to this, but you're in base personnel. Let's just call him the low end. Let's call it 40% of the time. So that means he might be getting 40% of snaps and then rotate, take Vita off the field and some passing downs or, get him some rest type of thing. Like he's probably going to back up, Vita and Kancey every now and then. So like he's going to have a role, but he just can't get abused in the run game. I'm happy that we have Will Golston just kind of hold up in that role in case he doesn't, as like an insurance, type thing. But yeah, Logan Hall. I'm not saying he has to be great. He just has to be average.
Yeah. And I just felt like there are times where he gets spun around like a washing machine at times.
Well, you would think he'd be the one who'd play for the Eagles, not Devin White, because he's got green on his jersey all the time.
Exactly. Like that, what was the preseason game that he was in with backups and he was getting manhandled a little bit.
He's done better this year, but like last year, you put him against any quality inside offensive lineman and it was game over.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully, I just, again, you have to take preseason with a grain of salt. And I'm going to say it, as much as I really don't care for him or his play, I hope he improves and he can help the team succeed.
Well, the alternative in that draft was that safety from Minnesota that was cut. So, like, I would say honestly, because we all know Bulls loved him and he was probably going to be the pick. And one of the reasons why they traded back was they thought they were 2 guys and, Hall was the backup. But yeah, like, if anything, I think we got better of the 2 players. That's not saying a lot, but like one's playing and getting snaps. And the other one just got cut as a first-round pick and on the practice squad for someone. Like, I don't know.
So, going around the league a little bit, and because I like doing this, I've been looking at some of these teams, like, for example, Baltimore, the Ravens. That's going to be a tough game. This is a team that should have gone to the Super Bowl a couple of times, but seems like when they get to the playoffs, it's just a different story. They're a good regular season team. But when they get to the playoffs, recently not so much. I would say since Lamar Jackson, and this is no slight at Lamar Jackson. I actually do like watching him play during the regular season, of course. He's like who would you like James Harden. James Harden puts up like phenomenal numbers during the regular season. Then
Lamar's been better than that.
come on now. Now hear me out.
Lamar's been better than that in the postseason.
So and then when it gets to the playoffs, it's like,
okay, how about this? I'll give you Joel Embiid.
Okay. I can ride with that too.
Because like like Lamar does a lot of small stuff that James Harden just wasn't willing to do. But I think like Embiid, Lamar in his non-MVP seasons gets hurt. And then the Ravens are, limping into the playoffs because, Mark Andrews has been hurt a lot as well. But they got my boy Nelson Aguilar, so he's going to save the day for him. No, I'm just kidding. But so, no, I mean,
how do the Bucs match up
against the Ravens?
Against like a Ravens team? I mean, just based
now with Derrick Henry, it's kind of tough because what do the Bucs really struggle with? It's that running quarterback, and that's why. I mean, the Commanders, for instance, don't have Baltimore's talent, so that makes that feat a lot easier to at least deal with. Like Jaden can still get his, and the Bucs still win. But with Lamar, if you let him get his, then it's pretty much game over because what separates a team like the Ravens to a lot of other teams in the NFL is not just their offense, not just their defense, not just their special teams, not just their coaches. It's the combination of those four that are pretty unmatched. Like, you take the San Francisco 49ers. Kittle gets hurt, Debo gets hurt, McCaffrey gets hurt. You're playing a completely different team. Do you think the Ravens are any different if Zay Flowers gets hurt?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
If Mark Andrews gets hurt, is Isaiah Likely's proven himself? Like, you know what I mean? They got their own version of Antoine Winfield and Kyle Hamilton. So, like, they're a super versatile defense. I mean, they just lost their D coordinators. So, like, he's the head coach of Seattle now. But it's just like you look at the Bucs are similar to the Ravens in that you look at the roster and it's just like, wow, there's really not that many, holes. But John Harbaugh is a better coach than Todd Bowles, no offense.
Most definitely.
Justin Tucker. Oh my goodness. Justin Tucker is the best kicker in probably NFL history. Like, you can't make up that. No. And yeah, they don't have a Logan Hall, for instance. Like, that's the difference between like the Ravens and the Bucs. Like, the Ravens, you have to play like a team like the Chiefs steal games from teams, like
because they're always hanging around. They're always like
and then you just give Mahomes the ball with 2 minutes, and it's just like anything can happen, right? Like Baker, for instance, hasn't made a career out of that. Lamar hasn't necessarily made a career out of that. Josh Allen hasn't necessarily made a career out of that. Like, you know what I mean? So that's where like Mahomes is like in that Brady conversation because it's just like you give him the ball, just keep him in the game, and anything can really happen. And that's why when we were kicking their ass in the Super Bowl, you listen to Tony Romo during that game, you go on Twitter, everyone's just like, this game ain't over. Yep. And on their last drive, Tony Romo was like 2:50 left and they're down by like 25. He's like, finally, I think this is probably it. Like, it's just like, because that's just what Mahomes has done for literally every other game but that one. Yeah. And probably the other game versus Brady in the AFC Championship game when he was, in his second year? Like, not really going to hold that game over his head.
Yeah. Argy, to answer your question, I think he was around 1,100 yards, a little over 1,100 yards. I don't know if somebody might want to fact check me on that. But
but on a lesser offensive line, a quarterback that's not as dynamic. No offense to Will Levis. Regular season 1167. Good for you.
Yeah, I was. Just impact goes. I didn't think he did that good last year, but they went over 1,000 yards. So definitely.
Well, the Titans weren't a good team last year, so
no, they were in a bad way. I don't know what they're going to do this year. They're spiraling right now.
No, I mean everything's on Will. I mean, They changed everything. They have Nuke Hopkins. They brought in Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
They have a good little roster. Don't get me. It's pretty much is Will Levis it
That vision though, man.
for
That,
who?
for the Titans.
Like the team vision or like
Yeah,
a player?
the division that they're
Oh,
playing in.
the division.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, the division they're playing in is just like,
It's
man.
winnable.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends how you feel about the Texans. The Bucks were
So
one of those teams.
do you think last year was a fluke?
No. I just think I think it's like the Packers. I think it's a little bit too premature to just have them be like an AFC favorite. Just like I think it's a little premature to say that the Packers are the NFC favorite. Because tell me one thing the Packers did last year that the Bucks didn't do. They lost at the same level. They blew out their first round opponent in the playoffs. A quarterback, Jordan Love, had only had 1 year of experience. Baker was on the go around, but you look at the Packers roster. Do they have a Mike Evans? Do they have a Vita Vea? Do they have a Tristan Wirfs? Do they have an Antoine Winfield Jr.? So like what tells me the Packers are that team to beat in the NFC? Now, if you want to talk to me about the Lions or the 49ers,
Yeah, and
I'm all
see,
ears.
this is a
I'm
lot
all
of
ears.
disrespect when you talk about Green Bay. I mean, I don't think the Lions I don't think they've fallen back on anything, going in the offseason. I felt like, you've got your same squad. You got a chance to really, push the needle this time and
Well, and
really.
also what the Bucks have that the Texans don't is the NFC is a lot more winnable than the AFC. I mean, you look at all the quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins is a top 3 quarterback in the NFC, and Kirk Cousins is the line of like basically whether or not you're a good quarterback or not. Like that tells you the line's skewed where all of them are in the AFC.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, there's Jalen Hurts, there's Dak, depending on how you feel about Dak. I mean, Brock Purdy is a nice story, but is anyone going to say? I mean, he might get paid like the highest paid quarterback, but is anyone going to compare him to Mahomes?
No, not at all.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, or Josh
And I tell you
Allen
what,
or Lamar Jackson.
if Dak goes to another team, he's going to win a Super Bowl.
Not if it's in the AFC.
It's my.
I mean, if I'm the Raiders, I make a play at him. If I'm the Panthers, if Bryce Young's not it, I make a play at him. But like, do you want Dak Prescott to be taking place in Dave Canales, assuming he makes it? So that's why
I'm still undecided on Dave Canales. I
as a head coach, I think he's fine. But Gene, let's say you were starting
I'm talking about just from a 54,000 feet looking down. We saw what he did, but he was still learning. He was still in the process of learning as an offensive coordinator. Now you've just you've upped the ante, and you got defense, special teams. You've got to be watching the clock, understanding, hey, I need to call a timeout here, or there's so many moving parts that he didn't have to deal with, and it'll just be interesting to me to see how he puts all that together to make it successful, or if he even can make it successful.
Well, it's not even that though. To me, is like, Gene, let's say we were going to go start a business together, right? What's the first thing you're going to do? Is you're going to be like, oh, I need to know someone who's in sales, right? I want someone to lead up my sales team. Oh, I need someone in marketing. Are you just going to like market it online on LinkedIn or, Indeed, or are you going to call someone that you know? The problem with Dave Canales is if you go through his Rolodex or you go through his contacts on his phone, it's all the castaways from the Bucs and the Seahawks organization.
Yep.
So he didn't necessarily have time to build a tree. Like he was in the league, sure, but what do we see about, Cohen? He's been around 4 or 5 college, NFL, called plays, not called plays, been around different trees, that type of experience. Like Dave Canales has been under one roof, one umbrella for like 20 years, the Pete Carroll, era.
Right.
USC and Seattle. So both levels, he was with the same person. Then he goes to the Bucs for 1 year and then literally shared an office with a guy who gets an opportunity. So it's like, here, like you're who I know. And then Dave Canales is all of this. If Dave Canales had a B+ staff, I think he would be a great head coach. But do you think the Panthers are going to be successful running duo because Harold Goodwin's running their run game coordinating?
No, it's going to take some.
Do you think
That's
he's
gonna
going
take
to be successful with Bryce Young when the best that a rookie GM can do is trade away their best pass rusher for a second-round pick and then trade for Deontay Johnson?
Yeah, it's
Like,
just a bad
that's what I
situation.
mean is you give Canales like light, you give him a D coordinator like Todd Bowles and a coordinator like a Liam Cohen. I bet you Dave Canales could be successful, but Dave Canales doesn't have that. So yeah, like
And
he's
the
going to
owner's
learn
a
his in
psychopath
game
too,
stuff.
So I think
Dave
that's a
Canales is going to be calling plays, Gene. He's never been a head coach. He's only been a coordinator 1 year. Do you know how much responsibility that is? That's
that's what
like
I'm saying.
if my company, which is like a 7,000, 8,000 person company, is like, here, Ken, you're a VP of sales now. I don't know what the fuck to do.
I couldn't even imagine that.
The money would be nice, and I bet Dave cashes his check the same way we all do every week or two. But that doesn't mean I'm going to be successful at that role because I don't have the experience to make me successful at that role. I didn't have leadership or mentorship that would help me be successful at this role. I wouldn't know who I'd want to lead certain divisions of the company to help me be successful. So that way, because what do we hear about CEOs all the time? They're burnt out, or like the good ones of like a small business. I'm not
Right.
talking, the a-holes that run big corporations. I mean, like
Yeah.
small business owners, they
Yeah.
work themselves senseless because they don't know how to delegate. That's
Right.
what Dave Canales is experiencing right now.
And you gotta factor in too that the owner is a psychopath. I mean, you go from an incredible ownership like the Glazers, regardless
Well,
of
the
the
Glazers, remember, get shit on too.
yeah,
They get
I
shit on a
know.
lot.
And I know I don't know, some of it's not.
Well, it's mostly Man U fans, but living in Carolina, Gene, I can tell you I've never met one person, not one person that likes Tepper.
And he's the owner. I mean, it's not, you can't fire the owner. So you're kind of like stuck with this clown. And basically I don't know, man. I guess there are some jobs, not all money's good money. And I'm happy with where the Bucks are right now. Everything happens for a reason, whatever. But I don't know, Canales, that I don't know if that's like the best situation to go into. But again, we don't know what all the other intangibles are there, but I don't know. You just kind of have to wait and see. Michael Pless, what's happening, man?
Why would they delay the start of the game?
It's thunderstorms. Still,
Are you
it's
fucking kidding me?
what's wrong?
Why? Why? I've looked forward to this for 7 months, Gene. 7 months. That's more than half of the year. And I'm going to have to stay up till like 1 a.m. possibly to watch this game?
It's worth it. It'll be worth it. Trust me. Trust me.
Gene, I love sleep. I love sleep.
Yeah, well, the Midwest, rain, thunderstorms. I don't know if you've seen the movie Twisters. I love that movie, by the way.
The
It's
one
just
with Glenn Powell?
yes.
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
that movie is just so good. It made me want to go out and chase tornadoes for a little bit. And then
Right?
I came to my senses.
Do they actually make trucks like that though, where it sticks into the
Oh,
ground
you know
like
what?
that?
So there's a guy named Reed Timmer. Reed Timmer's like my favorite.
Wait, no, you gotta say that in a southern accent. You got Reed Timmer. He's Mater
He
from
actually
Todd.
made a vehicle to drive into tornadoes. And they actually anchor the vehicle down. And so basically this vehicle will go in and it can take all the hits and stuff like that. But what he was saying, he watched the movie, he loved the movie, he gave it 10 stars like I did. But he said that part right there just couldn't happen, where if you would have to argue down a long way
Yeah,
in
I
order to get
agree.
that to
Like you'd have to have the thing go down and then like come out to the sides. You know what I mean? To
yeah, just
like
to bolt it
anchor
all
you in.
down.
Because if
Yeah.
you're just going up, what stops the tornado from sucking you up? I get that, but it
Yeah.
looked fucking cool.
Yeah, and that's what I loved about it. And I love the fireworks that they shot into the tornado. That was great. That was so over the top, but I just loved it. Oh, folks, recommendation. Got to watch Twister.
Don't live in the Midwest, people.
Yeah.
Go visit.
It's so funny. Buccaneer Bruce actually lives in the Midwest.
Well, good for him.
He understands this.
See, I can deal with hurricanes. I can't deal with tornadoes.
He threw a little bit of shade at me early on because he made a K-State remark at a KU alumni. So I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna let it go, buddy. But don't think I didn't catch it. But no, he asked an interesting question here. We'll get back to football in a second, but he was like, did you ever witness a tornado when you lived in Lawrence? No, but there were times where the clouds were swirling and it was green and all the stuff that you hear about, it's kind of eerie. But no, I guess the conditions, based on my knowledge after watching these 2 tornado movies,
which sound to be super realistic.
Exactly. So the conditions were not right for a tornado to occur, but they
that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
But kind of getting back to football, man. I am looking forward to this game tonight. Plus said he met some people from Carolina last week at the Gators game, and they hate Tepper too, and they're not Panthers.
No, I mean, we get a lot of people that come from Charlotte even to like go see the Carolina Hurricanes or in Raleigh. So like,
yeah,
they'll come to us. But like, yeah, I mean, not many people are Panther. I could get 10 rows up behind the Bucs bench for like $200, and I'm waiting for the Panthers to suck so I can maybe get them at like 100, 150, and I'll be there in December 1st.
Man, that's going to be a good game. I'm looking forward to it. I don't think that the Bucs are going to just run them out of the stadium, but it's going to be a good game. You go sleep when you're dead. Hey, King Cook, what's going on? You ready for the season, my man? I know I am. Yep. Plus, you need to see it. There's no reason you shouldn't see it. You have
apparently, like, I didn't know 4D was still a thing, but I know so many people that went to go see it in 4D because you get like the spray on you.
Where do you go? Where do you find a 4D theater? I don't
know, but they still have them apparently. Yeah, like all of my coworkers were telling me about it. I was like,
Vegas has one, LA has one. I think there's one in Texas somewhere.
No, they have like there's a lot of not Regal. What's the main like movie theater? AMC. Like AMC has like a lot of them, but like in Raleigh, we only have like one IMAX. So like I went to go see Dune 2 in IMAX, and it didn't even like recline seats. It was kind of an old theater and kind of sucked. But like I didn't know 4D was still. I thought 4D died in like
4D is incredible. 4D will spoil you if you watch an action movie in 4D. You're ruined for life.
What they need to do is they need to make it like one of those massage chairs, so that way when it like the whole time you're just like moving, but you're getting massaged. I'd pay $50 to go see that.
Dude, we went and saw Black Panther: Wakanda Forever in Paris in 4D, and I'm like, guys, you need to put seatbelts on these chairs because I'm like getting flipped around. I'm like sliding out of my chair, and then every time I get all set up, a bunch of water like sprays in my face, and I'm like, oh, what the hell's going on here? But it was the best movie experience I've ever had is 4D, and I can say for a fact it's worth the money.
Fair enough.
But anyway, so kind of getting back to football. So what are your thoughts on this game in Brazil? I'm looking at some of these players boarding the plane. They didn't look too thrilled about going to Brazil. And me personally, I'd be mad at the Players Association and because you're putting yourself in danger going to Brazil.
They agreed to it, though.
I know
all the partnerships. That's why the Bucs have Germany.
Yeah,
Germany's not Brazil. Like that's their designated zone. Like,
but
so
Germany is not
should
Brazil.
Go. It's not unexpected,
right?
But said
Brazil,
no to it.
Maybe Mexico City, maybe.
But Mexico City's already a thing, and I think there's already teams that are associated with Mexico City.
Yeah, you're right. But Brazil, though?
Well, it's because they're trying to be global. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not betting on the game tomorrow, but like, am I going to watch it? Yeah. Like, I still watch crap Thursday night football games. They know what they're doing.
So let me ask you this then. Okay, let's take Brazil off the table. Let's just say that Players Association said, okay, it's not safe to go to Brazil. We got to replace it with another country. What are we talking? Where are we talking about here? Where would you think? Because now I'm going back to NFL Europe, and I'm thinking about all these different places. I mean, freaking Barcelona. Why not? Why not Barcelona?
It's based on soccer clubs. I don't know the
Yeah, that's
Barcelona soccer scene. I don't know.
yeah, that's
I mean,
true.
but Barcelona, Spain. I think there is Spain has
But
teams.
remember NFL Europe, there was what were they, the Barcelona
I
Dragons?
was like 10. I don't remember Europe. We didn't have social media even back then. I didn't watch ESPN like that. I watch ESPN for my highlights back when that's what ESPN did.
Yeah, okay. All I'm saying is there are much better places than Brazil. Brazil, yeah, maybe later on. I mean,
But
you
Gene,
can't
okay,
even fire up your Twitter in Brazil right now.
what'd you say?
Barcelona.
Barcelona, Spain. So, like for instance, the Dolphins are with Spain, and they also have Argentina, Colombia, and Mexico. So the Spain has the Bears and the Dolphins. Like South Korea has the Rams.
That's
Like
true.
we're getting out there, man. Like
So
the Rams also
what
have Japan.
there you go. Why not Japan?
I don't know. I've seen baseball played in Japan. The Bucks played a game in Japan
Bro,
back
think
in the
about
day.
this. I mean, if you look at the Olympics, wasn't there Olympics football and the United States got I think the United States got washed by Japan in the Olympics. Hold on, I'm looking
In the
that up right
what?
now. I may be delusional here.
Are you talking about like the flag or the tackle football thing?
Yeah, I
That's
knew the
like
football.
under 20, like not real football though, Gene. If they were actually good football players, they would have been at the University of Bama,
I
Michigan.
understand that. I understand, but just the fact that the United States lost to Japan in football in any capacity, it just
Well, US also, I don't know if you remember the Pan American Games for, U14, but they also lost to this team from Iceland. And like Iceland's like, not necessarily known for their hockey, and the USA had players from Miami to Minnesota to Texas.
yeah,
They had this national team, right? They go and they're playing at home, for the Pan
right,
American Games in Los Angeles, California, and they even had Keenan Thompson playing a goalie and shooting a knuckle puck, and they lost to Team Iceland but beat them in the finals. So I mean, like, gee, you have no idea what I'm talking about, do you?
that is so crazy. I'm just like,
I'm talking about D2, the Mighty Ducks here.
okay. Said Keenan Thompson. You had me. I'm
One
thinking
of the
Keenan
greatest
Allen.
sports movies of all time.
I'm thinking Keenan Allen here. But yeah, I get where you're going here. So Venice, somebody Bud Cannibal said Venice.
I don't think
Possible.
Italy actually has a team. No, Italy's not one of the countries. Ireland is.
Ooh,
Nigeria is. The Cleveland Browns. Don't know
yeah,
how that's going to work. All the players got to get vaccinated
yeah, basically.
before they go to Africa. Switzerland's got a team. They're pretty neutral last time I checked.
Who's Switzerland's team?
Switzerland has many teams. They got the Lions, the Chiefs, the Patriots, the Seahawks, and the Bucks.
Ooh, Switzerland.
Yeah, see who all the Bucks have.
Yeah, there we
So
go.
the Bucks have Switzerland,
Okay.
Germany, and
Okay.
Austria.
Ooh, Austria. That would be nice. I could go for that. I could go for the beer there. I think the supply of beer would draw me to I think Austria and Germany. Well, Germany for the most part. Frankfurt's incredible. Munich.
You Rome at the old Coliseum.
That
Plus.
would be wild though.
Also, Plus looks like he, just watched the Justin Timberlake video in the 90s. He said he needs to change his profile picture, so that maybe.
Nah, he could leave it, man. I like it.
I know, I love it.
Yeah, you got to put it with the deep voice, with the Barry White voice.
Oh yeah, like he's in
you know what? He just
Louisiana.
needs to leave that. Just leave that the way it is, and just run with that for the. All right. King Cook says, I need Rashad White to have a monster game one to set the tone. I'm with you.
Well, I mean, running up the gut isn't going to be the best. I think he's just got to have a good, at least in the passing game. I mean, the only strength other than Jaden Daniels and maybe Terry McLaurin he's still getting a little old in the tooth there, but like, okay, let's just say Terry McLaurin is a strength. Their defensive tackles are the only strength on the defense, at least.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, if Rashad's averaging 3-4 yards a carry, that's fine. But if he's getting 7 yards of reception, more than fine by me.
Yeah, there you go.
He's moving the ball.
So before we wrap up, because I do want to watch this game, I got to go pick up some hot wings anyway. But I did want to see what do you think about the Washington Commanders? I mean, as far as their team matching up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we haven't really talked about it a whole lot, but I do want to kind of get that in. Bucks versus Commandos. How does it work? I wish they would have went with the Washington Generals, just kind of like the Harlem Globetrotters, personally. But I know you probably don't know who that is because they're an older basketball team. That I'm just playing with you.
Gene, I have a father who's from Indiana that put a basketball in my lap at a very young age.
Really?
Yeah.
Come on now. Is this along the lines of the Mighty Ducks here, or are you dead serious?
No, my father's from Elkhart, Indiana.
Really?
Small town boy.
How far is that from French Lick?
I don't fucking know, but yeah, he's a Notre Dame fan and all that stuff. That much I can tell you.
So is he a Caitlin Clark fan?
Yes, huge. He even tries to watch Angel Reese too. I'll give him his props there. But he's a Caitlin Clark guy.
Shots and rebounds. Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Well, I mean, I'll give this, like, when it comes to basketball, like, I was taught at a very young age, how to play the game necessarily the right way. It's not the flashy way. It's making the right pass, and and that's what Caitlin Clark kind of does. It reminds a lot of people of what good basketball looks like, because we're not used to watching women's basketball, which is the reality of the situation. I'm not trying to be mean here. So that's why I think I don't like the whole Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese thing. Yeah, I think Angel Reese should, be able to put a ball into a hoop and not get 15 of her own rebounds. Sure. But like, it's still stats.
But what she's done, I mean, but if there was, if you think about it this way, if there was somebody in WNBA to stop her, they would have stopped her by now. But until that time comes, she can
exactly. You can be the Andre Drummond of the WNBA and still make a lot of money through endorsements and all these other things. Like, I respect her coin. If I were her, I would try to be Dennis Rodman or Draymond Green and just like own that anti-hero.
But I don't know. I feel like she's kind of fell off as a because in college she scored a little bit more than.
Well, remember, all the WNBA players said she should get the Rookie of the Year because her team was winning and had a better record than Clark, and her team just hasn't been winning lately. So who's been getting all of the run? The girl who, after the Olympics, like Dave Portnoy did you see the bet Dave Portnoy made?
That guy's insane.
Preseason, he has partnerships with DraftKings and all that stuff, but he still put six figures down on, them to win. Gene, they were like a 10,000 to 1 odd. We're talking like,
and
$100 million.
Yeah, he gets on live and brags about all the money he's making. He's just sitting back making money.
I mean, he sold his company for like $1 billion and then paid for it back with $1. But like my whole point with that is draft. If you know anything about sports betting, when when one of them thinks you're going to win, they give you more money back than what you wagered. Right now, Dave Portnoy has almost doubled his bet. If he cashed out right now, he'd get $200,000. That just tells you, the Indiana Fever were not doing well before the Olympics. Now they barely can even lose. So, like, who's the star for that reason? It's Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, definitely. Not to get out the subject of football. King Cook asked an interesting question. Not the passing game with White, not just the passing game with White. I want to see much more aggressive, active run game. But you got
to get a lead. The Bucks haven't been doing that much with Canales.
So again, I'm happy with Lord Byron was that was from another time.
Well, even with Brady, we're playing from behind a bunch. How many comeback wins did Brady have in those 3 years? It was a good amount.
Yeah. And again, I think he's got some help. If people can stay healthy, I think the run game will be just fine.
Yeah, again, I think we're going to get that push up the middle. And again, I don't think Rashad White's going to be Christian McCaffrey. But if he has, let's just say 12 rushes for 60 yards, that's 5 yards a rush.
Yeah.
That's a yard and a half more than what he was doing last year. We saw, I mean, even just in the preseason, granted it's the preseason, but how many off seasons have we seen for the past decade of like 2 yards a rush?
Yeah.
Like we were 4, 5, 6, and 7 throughout the preseason.
And
that
I
tells you
think,
something changed.
yeah, and I think that Rashad White, with his pass catching ability, it sets him apart from a lot of the other running backs that the Bucs
That's
has.
again, I think he's an offensive weapon. I mean, he's not McCaffrey,
Yeah.
but if you get him in space,
Speed and
that's
space.
just where he's gonna like. I mean, we don't have that bruiser like that Derrick Henry, like Garrett Blunt, like you know what I mean. Like we
Yeah.
don't have that. What we have is guys who are really good in space. So if it's in the pass, get him the ball and on a swing pass. Like I don't care. I'd rather him take on Bobby Wagner's old ass chasing him around to try to up his tackles because all he does is get assisted tackles. He doesn't make solo tackles like Levante David does. Sorry, I had to plug that. But like I'd rather have Rashad White face Bobby Wagner in space on the side at the hashes than up the gut against Deron Payne in the really good D tackle situation. Like if you think the game plan is in space, then I say that's fine. Do that.
That's where he's really destroyed a lot of people with that speed and space,
Exactly.
just getting out there and you can tack on a first down right there once he gets going. So I know a lot of people were upset and they wanted to draft another running back last year and they weren't happy with him. And I mean, nobody gave him a chance. He was playing behind Lenny, who I don't even know where Lenny is nowadays, but I don't know. Not that it matters. But last year was his first taste as a starter.
Yeah.
And I thought he did exceptionally well. I felt like there were some situational plays where he could have picked up yardage, but the coach called something different. And I felt like, it kind of did him a disservice at times. But, it's offensive coordinator finding their way.
Also, he has help, which he didn't have last year.
Yes.
So like if he had 1,500 all-purpose yards last year, right? It was like second in the NFL behind McCaffrey. Now imagine if he only had 13 or 14, but Bucky Irving had another 600 and Sean Tucker had another 200. That's a better run game than what we had last year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And
So
that's
White, if he did on his own would be great, but if we have 3 guys that are producing above, I mean, again, the Bucs don't need the top rushing game in the NFL, but if they get to 15,
yeah.
That's scary because you have Mike, because you have Chris, because you have now an emerging Jalen McMillan. Like that what is the defense going to do? You can't have 8 in the box because you're going to throw it to Mike over the top. You can't have 2 high safeties because if you're averaging 5 yards a pop, well, you know what? 2 rushes is a first down.
You got problems. So, well, I can't believe we've been on an hour, almost hour here. But I wanted to go ahead and plug. I know you got your fantasy. Oh, your how did the draft go?
I mean, I think I have the best team. Not to brag, we had a 14-team league, which is 2 teams larger than what we normally do. But we thought 2 people weren't going to join, but they did because we have a lot of writers in that league. You all know them, like J.C. Allen. We got podcasters like Plus. We got Josh Capo, Pewter Report. We got a lot of good personalities that have been on this show. Yeah. But yeah, man, if we're just gonna go down the roster real quick, we got Jalen Hurts at quarterback, Henry at running back, the touchdown monster Raheem Mostert is RB2. We got Garrett Wilson, wide receiver 1. We don't like the Drake London pick. But he's my wide receiver 2. If Kyle Pitts doesn't play, I drafted Kyle Pitts earlier that day in my work league, only to find out about his injury. So if Drake London's the only guy who can catch a ball, well, I know Kirk Cousins could feed Justin Jefferson, so I took him. I almost took Kate Otten, but someone sniped him from me. But we got D-Hop at the flex, Pickens at the flex. We got Jalen McMillan on the bench. We got some stars there. J.C. Allen took the championship. Plus was talking a lot of Logan Hall trash there. But J.C. Allen took home the championship last year. We'll see if he can defend it this year. Yeah, it is.
Is it really?
And Gene, you go on frequently with the Bucketeers, right?
Yeah.
So have you ever been on with Bucko Bruce?
Yes, I have.
So Kevin, we changed his team name because he's a big FSU guy.
Uh-huh.
So a couple hours before the draft, we changed his team name to, because he was last place finisher last year.
Uh-huh.
We changed it to what's his face? DJ Ukulele is my number one quarterback, with a picture of Jameis as the FSU
I've got that.
mascot.
You guys know, and your listeners, you know me. You know I hate FSU. I don't have a dog in the fight, but just around draft time, I hate FSU. I swear, just more than any other college program out there, FSU is just the bane of my existence. So when I see all this stuff, especially like when you lose the 2 unranked teams, that's my Christmas right there. You've just
2 ACC, which is now a weak conference, unranked teams.
So what does that tell you? They are who you thought they were.
They haven't played Clemson. They haven't. I mean, Clemson got their ass kicked by Bama, but they got their ass kicked by Bama, or not Bama, or Georgia. Excuse me, Georgia.
Georgia, yeah.
What do you think FSU would lose to Georgia by? Now, what if USF is the second best team in Florida behind Miami?
Oh, that would be beautiful.
What if USF covered they lost to Bama 14-0 last year. If they cover the 30-point spread, I think they have the case.
I do too. As long, but I think the beauty of these last 2 weeks is Florida State doesn't have to complain about being left out of the playoffs. I think that's they did themselves a big favor, and I'm glad they did. We don't have to hear about it.
Well, Alex Golish might make a lot of money if he stays in Florida.
Yep, we'll see. So, last question before we get out of here. What is the over and under of Michael Penix finishing the rest of the season? Penix. That was not. I was thinking, don't say it, and I said it. Michael Penix finishing out the season with the Atlanta Falcons versus Kurt, not my cousins.
The only way I see Penix playing is if they either have a playoff position pinned,
I'm talking about
they don't have a playoff position pinned, and he plays the last game. I think if Kirk Cousins is healthy, he's playing at least 16.
There you go.
I mean, you paid him $100 million. If you're going to sit Penix, sit. I mean, the Chiefs sat Mahomes. I'm not saying Penix is Mahomes, but I think if that's what you want to do, if you want to sit him, you sit him.
Oh, okay. There you go. So I don't know. We'll have to see.
Well, and also think about it. You have to completely inverse your offense to accommodate him. Let's just say in the middle of the season, just doesn't sound appealing. Let's say Drake London, Mike Evans pretty much plays sides. You know what I mean? Imagine having to flip everything. Let's say Mike Evans played on the left side the whole season, then he switches to the right. You know what I mean? Everything. Your left tackle, Tristan Wirfs, for instance, would be your front side tackle. You know what I mean? Your whole offense changes. I just don't think it makes much sense to really play him other than you have a spot secure or you've already been eliminated.
Yep, there you go. Well, we will have to see. Well, my man, thanks a lot for coming on, and I guess we'll get ready to watch this football game on Thursday Night Football, which I hate Thursday nights, but
it's actually not a Thursday Night Football game though, because they didn't play on Sunday.
There we go. So we're off to a good start, folks. But anyway,
delayed until 8:40. No,
8:40. So
30 minutes.
I'm trying to figure.
But they still have to do the ceremony, so it's really not 8:40.
So you'll go to bed probably about
12:30,
1, something like that. But it's worth it, man. It's football.
For tonight, it is.
All right. Well, all right, folks. Thanks for joining us, and you guys have a great time. The rest of the week, football's coming up. Go Bucks, and we'll be back here next Thursday to do the same thing. Peace.